It's a brand new
Oscar season, and now that I will not have to utter the words everything, everywhere, all at or once,
I'm free!
For at least a good while, it is more exciting to look at the future. I, for one, am not going to wait for anything trivial like release dates, momentum, actual evidence, whether or not these movies are actually going to come out or not. Facts and logic are just not cool, and this seems to be a popular thing to do, predict the next Oscars as early as possible, and it seems like a fun thing to do, so here I am. I will get at least half, if not most of these wrong, of course. We have almost nothing to work off of yet. But getting things wrong is part of the fun at this stage of the game, and this is a good way of at least looking at movies that we might look forward to as the year goes on. I'm not that interested in trying to predict a winner just yet. I'm mostly going off of which films I think are most likely to be nominated. I'm bringing back my 5 voter archetypes who each tend to like and dislike certain things, to olds like safe and traditional movies that are feel-good, cheerleaders or industry socialites who like movies about movies or rooting on one of their own, popcorn munchers are normies who like movies that are accessible and talked about, messengers value movies most for what they represent, and arthouse snobs like the real eccentric biz. A film only needs to really appeal to one of these demographics in order to be nominated, but a winner typically has to appeal to most, if not all of these demographics. I'm also going to be looking only at the Best Picture race this video. I'm hoping to doing the other categories like director and screenplay and acting in a separate one. On to the definites. I feel absolutely confident about these first 2. There is no way they do not get in. Number 1, Killers of the Flower Moon. Martin Scorsese's Killer of the Flower Moon is a Western crime film based off of the non-fiction book of the same name. When oil is discovered on tribal land in the Osage Nation, a series of unsolved murders soon follow, leading to a massive FBI investigation led by Leonardo DiCaprio, I think. Do I think Killers of the Flower Moon is going to actually win? No. It just does not line up with the latest streak of underdog Best Picture winners. I don't think an established Oscar-winning director has made a Best Picture winner since 2015 with Birdman. However, I see no universe in which Flower Moon is not at least nominated for Best Picture. Martin Scorsese is one of our superstar living movie directors, way up there with Steven Spielberg and Quentin Tarantino as a director who gets nominated nearly every time, and whose every release is an event. Scorsese has been incredibly consistent for his over 40 years of work, and his hot streak still goes on today, having recently released modern and Best Picture nominated classics, like The Irishman and The Wolf of Wall Street. Heck, even Hugo got in. Ignore Silence. Let's not talk about Silence. Killers of the Flower Moon will also be distributed by Apple TV+, who has proven to be a big power in award season, and this is definitely going to be their top priority. McQueen's Blitz also looks promising, but that's probably going to get deferred for next year. Olds will like a Western crime film, and Scorsese is a familiar director for them. Cheerleaders will likely respond at least somewhat to this all-star cast, and Scorsese always manages to be entertaining enough to appeal to popcorn munchers and artsy enough to appeal to art house snobs. I do wonder if the movie will get some controversy. If not handled well, Killers of the Flower Moon could become one in a long line of media about Native Americans getting murdered, but it is not as though Scorsese films are new to controversy. Dune Part 2. Denis! Dune Part 2 is also absolutely going to be nominated for Best Picture. Popcorn munchers are going to champion this movie. It's going to be a pop culture sensation like the first, and most importantly, the original Dune absolutely swept into Oscars, winning 6 awards. Denis is a remarkable, consistent, and beloved director, and those who have read the book all claim this is when the story gets really good. I have every reason to believe Dune Part 2 is going to be better than the first, and since I don't see any other blockbusters competing with it this year, I feel like it will do at least as good in the Oscars this year due to the popcorn muncher push alone. Let's go on to the probablys. Here are the movies that will probably get in. Like, I would personally bet on these, but something could go wrong. Maybe. Number 3, Saltburn. Emerald Fennell's Saltburn is a driller following the shenanigans of some aristocratic family. A lot of these movie premises are going to be kind of vague. It stars Barry Keoghan and Rosamund Pike. After Triangle Sadness got nominated last year, I have learned to never doubt the social satire pick again. Triangle Sadness, Don't Look Up, Promising Young Woman, Parasite, Speaking of Promising Young Woman, that movie's director, Emerald Fennell, is behind this one too, so we have at least a little precedent to work off of. Movies like Dumb Money could fill that social satire slot too if Saltburn does not pan out, but this seems like the safer bet, and it could be Amazon's top priority. Blitz Bazala's The Color Purple is a musical following the struggles of an African-American woman living in the South in the early 1900s. It is adapted from the 2005 stage musical, which was based off of Alice Walker's 1982 novel, and the novel inspired Steven Spielberg's non-musical 1985 film adaptation. This movie has a lot of history, is what I'm trying to say. I will probably maintain that a musical is inherently just too divisive to ever win. No no's from the art house snobs. But I think The Color Purple looks to hit the nostalgia bone for olds and cheerleaders, and that entertainment value for popcorn munchers is otherwise too undeniable. So long as this movie is good, of course. I don't know if this means anything, but this movie is also produced by both Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese, so maybe that gives it one behind-the-scenes push. Give The Color Purple an all-star cast as well, and we seem to have a behemoth. There is a slim possibility that another late-year musical, Wonka, starring Timothée Chalamet, may steal the movie's thunder, but The Color Purple seems much more up the Oscar alley. The likelies! From here on out, we're discussing the likelies. I'm not very confident that all of these movies will get in. Actually, I'm more confident that at least one of these movies won't, but I think they are all likely. Number 5 is Past Lives.
Childhood sweethearts who reconnect 20 years later and realize they were meant for each other.
Celine Song's directorial debut, Past Lives, follows a reunion between two formerly close childhood friends who grew up in South Korea but were separated when one of their families immigrated to the States. Will A24 get a film to Best Picture 2 years in a row? I wouldn't take that for granted. Past Lives could be a Triangle Sadness or a Minari, in that it is a non-mainstream movie beloved at the festivals and pulls through to awards, but I worry Past Lives could also be the critical darling that doesn't get recognized, and we see one of those every year too. Last year alone had Aftersun and Cha Cha Real Smooth. It's early. Not every movie that is beloved now is going to stand the test of time. I'm putting Past Lives here because this will likely be the art house snob representative of this year's award season like Tar was. Past Lives premiered at Cannes and was immediately hailed as the highlight of the festival. Past Lives is currently the movie that all other critical darlings have to beat, and that is a good position to be in to get that critical art house snob vote, and it sounds like Past Lives sets a very high bar. Just look out for a new, hot, critical darling to come around and get the art house snob's attention.
혜성!
와, 진짜 와다.
와.
Number 6 is Barbie. Barbie is easily the highest risk, highest reward option in this year's Oscars race. I can see Barbie just as easily winning Best Picture as I can see it flopping out entirely. Greta Gerwig is one of the most beloved new film directors working today, as she is also behind Lady Bird and 2019's Little Women. Her husband, Noah Baumbach, who was behind Marriage Story, is collaborating with her to write this movie. And the fact that this seems to be more of a deconstruction of Barbie rather than an actual Barbie movie is eye-catching. Barbie is lined up to be an absolute discussion starter and receive popcorn muncher attention, so if this movie is good, and Greta Gerwig has been consistently good, this could be this year's Joker, or Everything Everywhere All at Once. I said it again. I know I for one just want to know what this movie is going to be. I feel like a monkey with a lighter, I just don't know what the f*** to do with this thing. Hey, I wanted to take a brief moment to check in with you. Can I get you a drink? Something to eat? If you like this video and want to see more Oscar stuff like this as the year goes on, or weekly 250-word reviews of the hot new movies, please consider giving this video a like and subscribe to this channel with a ring-a-ding-bing of the little bell icon. I would really appreciate it. Number 7, Oppenheimer.
But we have no choice.
Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer is a biographical drama based off of the real-life J. Robert Oppenheimer, the man who invented the atomic bomb.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. I suppose we all thought that, one way or another.
we go now? Where's your rhythm? I thought you had the time stone. Your punchlines sound like they came from Rhyme Zone. You might be something in the MCU, but between us, who's the worst MCU?
We all know what to expect out of a Christopher Nolan film, for the most part. He is one of the masters of effects-heavy action blockbusters, and unlike his other contemporary James Cameron, he releases more than one movie per decade. Though his most recent film, Tenet, was a bit of a low point, his films are mostly consistently high quality.
I cause chain reactions when I'm lyrical, cause I've got that fissile material.
Not all of Nolan's films gets nominated for Best Picture, but Dunkirk, a fairly traditional war movie, did. Oppenheimer is not one of his sci-fi concept films, so I think it's fairly safe. Oppenheimer is also going to be released on the literal same day as Barbie, though, so there's a good chance these two movies might end up eating each other, especially since they have the same distributor. Two movies enter, one movie leaves. Number 8, Maestro. Bradley Cooper has a nomination track record with his debut, A Star is Born. However, I do kind of have a hunch that Maestro's gonna flop. I don't know why, it's just a weird feeling I get. A weird House of Gucci-ish feeling. However, a movie does not need to be spectacular to get nominated, and it looks like it's currently Netflix's biggest priority without too much competition, and honestly, that's the main reason I'm going with it. On to the hunches. Honestly, I don't really have a clue from here, so call these last two predictions hunches. Number 9, The Holdovers. Alexander Payne's The Holdovers is a comedy drama about one very disliked teacher played by Paul Giamatti who is put in charge of supervising a smart and rebellious student who is unable to make it back home for Christmas. I gotta be honest, there's not much about the movie that looks interesting to me, personally. But Alexander Payne is a pretty critically renowned, if often underappreciated director, known for his dark comedy, and the key to these early predictions is looking out for those kinds of potential picks. This does seem like a nice, traditionally emotional, and uncontroversial film, with a holiday twinge, and we usually can't go wrong with a good drama comedy. The real reason I'm going with The Holdovers is because of its distributor, Focus Features, which has recently gotten one or two movies in the Best Picture lineup without fail. Last year they had Tar, the year before that they had Belfast and Licorice Pizza, before that Promising Young Woman. This year, unless Polite Society busts expectations wide open, The Holdovers looks like their most likely top priority. Unless Wes Anderson's Asteroid City does what the Grand Budapest Hotel did in 2015. Number 10. I agonized over this last slot, however, just like Focus Features, I noticed another major distributor has been inexplicably missing from this current lineup. Searchlight Features, behind The Banshees of Inisherin and Nightmare Alley. And this year, they have way more pickings than Focus. I briefly considered Rye Lane, but that one is more of a Hulu distribution, and Magazine Dreams, but to me, the Searchlight slot was really between Next Goal Wins and Poor Things. Taika Waititi, director of Jojo Rabbit, is finally coming out with Next Goal Wins after years of delays and development hell, a sports comedy based off of a real-life story about a gruff coach who turns one of the world's worst soccer teams into champions. Next Goal Wins seems like a safe pick, but that's it. Last year we had some wild stuff, and this catalog is looking really safe except for Barbie. So let's try something else. Poor Things is about a young woman who is brought to life by an eccentric scientist. It is directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who is most known for The Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer, and the Best Picture nominated The Favorite. And though this premise seems kind of out there, I think I feel better about taking that risk and giving my predictions a little extra spice. So, these are my way too early Best Picture lineup predictions, and I want to immediately acknowledge 3 main issues. Number 1. Usually it's best to spread the love when it comes to distributors because even the biggest film studios cannot do everything. When it comes to Warner Brothers, I would usually cap it to 2 films, maybe 3 if we feel like pushing it. Right now, I'm predicting 4. Dune Part 2, The Color Purple, Barbie, and Oppenheimer, all under Warner Brothers' responsibility. I do not think all 4 of these movies are going to make the final cut, but I just couldn't cut either of them right now, either. If I was a betting guy, I would predict one of Barbie or Oppenheimer to drop off, or 4 of The Color Purple to get deferred to the year after. Number 2, there is some old domination going on here. Yes, Country for Old Men. Maestro, Oppenheimer, The Holdovers are all primarily old movies, and Killers of the Flower Moon 2 seems like an oldie hit. It's not the biggest deal, they are the biggest demographic, and last year was popcorn muncher-centric, but it's worth looking out for other options too. I tend to like to see a bit more variety. Number 3. Of course, most Best Picture lineups, heck, most Best Picture winners, include movies that at this point in the year we probably have not heard of. Not to mention we are still waiting for the usual critical darling international pick like Drive My Car or All Quiet on the Western Front, or even Parasite, which, let's be honest, is far more likely to fill that 10th slot. So, a question to the non-US folks. If there is an auteur in your country who is releasing a promising project this year, let me know. This could leak over to us unsophisticated states, and I would love to see some really cool movies, no matter what happens with the awards. There are some potential steals to look out for, which are the untitled Bob Marley biopic by the same director of King Richard. If this is good, and it has the same writer as The Wolf of Wall Street, so probably will be good, then we cannot underestimate a good musical biopic. I'm just wary of having another biopic film in my lineup, and this is easily the one that I know the least about. Next Go Wins, which I already talked about. Dumb Money, which is about the GameStop or GameStonks thing, which could get in if it's actually good, and if Saltburn doesn't work out. May December, which is a movie about a controversial celebrity couple, and an actress who is preparing to play the younger wife for a movie. I don't know much about what this movie will be, but there is some awards potential. Rustin, a biopic about a major and openly gay civil rights icon, which could be Netflix's second push and a potential Best Actor frontrunner with Coleman Domingo. Asteroid City, again Wes Anderson's big project this year, about the attendees of a stargazing convention in which something big happens. Again, vague premises. Wes Anderson is always super exciting, and I think it's going to be really good, but the awards tend to not go for him when they can help it. Bella's Afraid, which I honestly don't think will be a Best Picture thing, but again, I'm keeping my mind open for some weird stuff. Spider-Verse 2, but they didn't nominate the first movie, so you know what, Academy? You don't get to nominate Across the Spider-Verse Part 1, okay? You're not allowed. This movie is too good for you, it's all mine. And maybe Miyazaki's How Do You Live, which some people are considering, and if you want to see me go crazy and eat my chair or something, give that a nomination, and give Miyazaki a Best Director nomination, thank you. I don't think they will do it, but I would love that so much. Thank you, Internet, for giving me false hope.